Hi team. Guys, physical security is not possible to be covered in just like few minutes. For me to cover physical security, at least 2 hours are required. So what I will do, very, very high level, I will tell you this. Okay, what this particular objective is saying. So there is objective number 3.8 and objective number 3.9 in CISSP, which talks about physical security. The objective of the purpose of objective 3.8 is to help you understand that anytime when we are going to protect assets, everything is driven on data end of the day, and the data where it is getting processed. At times the data is, all these assets are put up into some facility, so we need to protect physical security. We need to also have physical security controls as well. So physical security goes hand in hand with digital security. If you are not spending on physical security, even though you spend more on digital security, it's not gonna work. And if you spend more on physical security, definitely you can spend a little less on digital security, maybe. But these two are very, very complementary. The entire physical security is based on some principles. For example, number one focus for physical security is to deter people. That's why the countries, they make nuclear bombs and all of it, right? So first thing is deter. You have a, even though if you don't have a dog in your home, you will put a something board right there, beware of dog. So koi ghus na jaye, right? So that is the first thing. You try to deter. If the attacker is motivated enough, he will not get deterred. He will try to enter. That time you have to deny. And if the attacker is even more motivated and sharp, then he will cross your barriers and he may try to get inside and try to reach to the point where he wants to attack. So that time we need to delay. And when we want to delay, even though that delay didn't work, then the attacker will go and hide somewhere or will try to do something. So you need to detect, right? And you need to respond to that. Detect and respond to that. And if nothing works, then you should go for recovery. That's your last word. So the same way digital security is there, the same way physical security also. So they are not very different. So the objective number 3.8 actually talks more about site selection and construction. Let's say there is a critical data center you are going to make. So when you go and have something critical to be processed, you need to have a critical facility to host something critical data processing. That time you have to do a risk assessment on that. A risk assessment is mandatory before even you decide a site selection. In that you will see, okay, what is how the approach is from the main road, how the approach is from the legal authorities, how nearby is the hospitals and other thing, how other things are available. At the same time, when you select a particular facility, you will also see there should not be very big trees which are very close to the facility. If there are big buildings, people can jump from those buildings and can do the theft and all. So all these kind of things are discussed in objective number 3.8. Okay, and accordingly your construction material, like the material of your doors, your windows, or all these kind of stuff, need to be actually decided based on the data getting processed in the facility. And objective number 3.9 talks about physical security controls. What kind of physical security controls you need to have? For example, you need to have doors, you need to have locks, then you need to have detectors as well, right, which can detect. So there are infrared detectors and photo detectors also. There are multiple type of detectors which can have. So those detectors is also very important. Then you need to also have um, uh, you need to have some kind of tailgating. You need to also have some kind of man traps and those kind of stuff. So there are a lot of physical security controls which they have spoken about. Finally, they have in this objective have spoken about fire. So a fire is a combination of oxygen, combustible material, plus the temperature. If we remove, I think people who are in Air Force, they know better, right? ये अपना फायर
सही
ड्रिल
बोला
वाले यही उसका वो एक वर्ड भूल जाएगा तो he will repeat everything, right? So if you remove any single component, then you can detect. You can actually prevent fire. Okay, so based on this principle, there are two approaches. One is fire extinguisher, and there are typically 5 classes of fire extinguisher: A, B, C, then A for metal, B for liquid, C for electrical fire. Okay, then there is also something called as metal fire, and K for kitchen fire. So you need to use the appropriate kind of fire extinguisher whenever you are extinguishing these different type of fire. Never use water for water and critical electrical facilities. Never. The other way for preventing fire is to use the fire suppression system. Means in the facility itself, you have the fire suppression system. So on that front, they have spoken about different type of fire suppression system. So there is something called as a wet pipe system. Wet pipe system means there will be a pipeline and there will be a end connector and the nozzle. Detector and nozzle will be here. Detector and nozzle will be here, and the water will be filled up to the neck. That is the reason we call it as wet pipe. This is good and very simple because costing is also less. It is easy to maintain, but the problem is you cannot use it for sub-zero temperature. Why you can't use it for sub-zero temperature? Because the water actually, when get freezed, it expand and the pipes may burst. So that is the reason why we also have dry pipe systems. Dry pipe system. A dry pipe system is where same arrangement, almost the same arrangement, detector and the nozzle will be here, but the instead of water, the water will be staying somewhere in a reservoir here, and in between we have some kind of nitrogen gas kind of thing which is filled up. So that kind of fire extinguisher is called as dry pipe system. So this gives some time to the security team to come and play their role, and they can manually override it as well. But it can also delay sometimes too much. So that's your dry pipe system. The third type of pipe system they have spoken about is called as pre-action valve. Pre-action valve. So there is an electromagnetic valve in this particular case, which is called as pre-action. Means the security team can do some kind of pre-action and they can override this system very well. That is why we call it as pre-action system. So the security team can get some time and control over the entire process. And then finally, there is also something called as deluge. So deluge is kind of, you might have seen big pipelines on a railway station, metro railway station, which can actually pour in high level of water. They can quickly pour in high level of water to quickly extinguish the fire. So these kind of deluge are used for industrial fire. All for the industrial fire kind of thing. So that is what as part of fire. I think in a very short time, I tried to conclude it. Otherwise, this will take 2 hours for me to explain the entire physical security. But I think it is in videos, it is very well covered. So this is an overview for the entire physical security, guys.